Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the special concurrent meeting of the Redevelopment Successor Agency and City Council for Monday, June 23rd, 2014. If there are members of the audience who would like to speak on the memory card to the clerk representative before the items called for discussion. On roll call for this evening's meeting, Councilmember Brooks, who is excused, Gallo, Gibson McElhaney, here, Cobb. I did see Kaplan, Reed, Shad, and Council President Kernahan, who will be chairing the meeting. Madam Chair, entering the body showing 7 members present. Your first item is open forum, and I see a total of 2 open public speaker cards for this evening.
So, Madam Clerk, if you would call the names of those public speakers who signed up for open forum.
Certainly. The 2 names I show are Perla Casa and Julia Mike. And anyone, please.
Actually, we do open forum, we have a little different rule, but we don't see time as our normal rule during open forum. You can see time and all the other items. So were you planning to just have one person?
Just one person as long as she's library.
Okay. The only reason I am a stickler about this is if I break it one time and I really break it all the other times. But is it possible that 2 of you can speak, or
one speaker is fine?
Oh, okay. Maybe 3 minutes.
These ladies are Laura and Jim.
Honorable Council members, good evening. My name is Perla Casas, and I am a lifelong resident of the City of Oakland. I am 16 years old and also a member of the Oakland Public Library's Youth Leadership Council. What brings me here today is the fact that the city has reduced its general fund contribution to the bare minimum of $9.1 million for the Oakland Public Library. To make up for this reduction for the city, Oakland Public Library heavily depends on Measure Q. This is a greater burden than Measure Q can support. As a result, this poses a threat to the library's funding, which translates to 6 imminent library closures next year, in 2015. We cannot allow any of our libraries to close. Our libraries are truly significant resources for the youth of Oakland. Thousands of youth in Oakland utilize libraries for the invaluable work experience. Based on public data for 2013, over 17,000 youths have attended young adult programs, and over 13,000 hours of volunteer work has been completed by the youth in Oakland across all branches. Taking away this valuable resource for youth would be disastrous. I have the honor to represent the voice of the youth of Oakland, the patrons of our libraries, and of the future of our city. I implore that you all seriously consider the impact of library closures on youth and you prioritize the allocations of our city funds. Please vote yes to add $500,000 to Measure Q as an important step towards addressing the budget gap. Thank you for your time. Good night.
Madam Chair, let me also submit my apologies to 2 other members of the public. Their cards were separated from open forum, Mr. John Klein and Mr. Bruce Knight. So, Mr. Klein, welcome. You have 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is John Klein, and during your consideration of the budget items right now, I hope you will consider fully funding the Public Ethics Commission. I believe that they are asking for up to 6 staff and investigators, and they really need those people on staff to make it function. I know that they've sent me letters about this, they've made recommendations. They're currently working on legislation to beef up both what they can do for the City of Oakland and transparency for the residents of the City of Oakland, and they'd also like to see the terms of commissioners lengthened to help keep the institutional memory there. There was a time when complaints to the Public Ethics Commission were handled in fairly timely matters. That has slipped quite a bit, and I'm certain that that's because of the lack of staff. And so So they've got a backlog now of complaints and issues that citizens have brought forward. They are dealing with issues, sort of putting fires out, as it were, right now. And that's just not the way that this should be maintained or dealt with in the City of Oakland. So again, in this process, I hope you will consider fully funding the positions that they've asked for. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
So then that would conclude open forum. Madam Chair, I understand that there is a desire to take items out of order.
Yes, I received a request from the administration to take items 5, 6, and 7 before item 4. Item 4 being the budget item. The other 3 items are sort of shorter items, and so hopefully we won't call them too long. So I would like to proceed in that order: 5, 6, 7, and 4.
And calling item 5 is a resolution establishing.
Madam Chair, may I take a point of order? I would ask that we adjourn the meeting this evening in the memory of Natalie Slivka. Many of us know Andy Slivka with the Carpenters Union. His only child, 22 years old, tragically died in his arms. And her services were this weekend. They were beautiful. And I just ask that we have a moment of silence and adjourn our meeting tonight in the memory of Natalie Slivka.
Thank you, Mr.
Oh,
Are there any other adjournments? I don't want to go through our usual announcing sequence, but. All right, thank you. We will do that. I wasn't going to, if that's okay. All right.
And moving to item 5 again, is resolution establishing as appropriations limit for fiscal year 2014 to 2015 pursuant to Article 13B of the California Constitution. I show no speakers on that.
All right, we have the staff report on item 5.
Good morning, Mr. President and members of the City Council. My name is Oswald Solite. The resolution in front of you is authorizing the city to establish an appropriation limit for fiscal year 14-15 according to the State of California Constitution, and we would like for you to approve this because we cannot be able to proceed after June 30th if this appropriation limit is not approved.
Thank you. And Mr. Dyer?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve staff's recommendation.
All right, been moved by Mr. Gallo, seconded by Ms. Kaplan, and I will just comment that the staff report says how clearly the formulas that the state requires us to do, and it's pretty much a formality. It doesn't really have all that to do with exactly what we're spending on what kinds of programs. All right, with that, are you in, Ms. Schaff, you're no longer, you're not wanting to speak on this item. Okay, so I show no one wishing to speak, so we can go ahead. Is this just going to vote? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, 2 abstentions. So that is 7 ayes, the motion passes. All present.
Moving now to item 6, it is an ordinance amending ordinance number 13170, which sets forth the Council's general purpose fund financial policies to amend the requirements for authorization to use one-time or excess real estate transfer tax revenues for purposes other than established through this ordinance to allow authorization of such uses by resolution approved by a supermajority vote of the Council. No speakers on item 6.
No speakers.
That is correct.
All right. Mrs. Schlein, would you like to?
Sarah Schlenk with the City Administrator's Budget Office. So we are asking for a first reading of this ordinance change on the financial policies as stated by the clerk. Just as a reminder, we first started discussing this on June 2nd at the first special budget meeting, and then at the Finance Committee on June 10th. The committee chose to send part of the ordinance change forward, which is the portion that you see here tonight, and then the rainy day and the change to the real estate transfer tax
we brought forward basically a draft of the ordinance that you're voting on tonight, and it essentially is the same that is in the packet tonight. So that's the report. If you have any questions, staff is available. Okay. Ms. Jack, did you want to speak to this? Or what we?
My mic light is not working, so I'm gonna apologize if I end up having it on and off and not knowing. It does seem like the mic itself is working. I just had two points. I know I'm a broken record. I continue to be concerned about our loosening of the fiscal policy, particularly in light of the fact that we have yet to adopt the rainy day fund policy, so I will continue to advocate for that. Secondly, I just want to raise a question, and this is kind of to my colleague, Councilmember Call. We started discussing this idea at rules last week, which is this proposal requires us to make a finding of necessity by the council. And Mr. Call had used the term in his suggested ballot language of a finding of extreme financial necessity or hardship. You used a slightly different term, and I just wanted to maybe put out the question about what term should we use and why. Maybe that there should be some consistency. Mr. Call, what was your suggested term?
They would recommend their extreme fiscal necessity.
Mr. Call, can you talk a little louder?
Oh, I'm sorry. The term that is in that ballot measure on a different topic was extreme fiscal necessity. It wasn't defined. In fact, it said to be defined by the council by resolution at some point in the future. So there wasn't a specific definition, but that was the term that was used. I think what Councilmember Schaaf is suggesting is that whatever term we use somewhere, we should be consistent and use the similar or same term in a number of the same places if they have similar purposes. Is that what you're suggesting? Yeah.
I am, and I think to the extent that we, at some point, create a better definition of what that constitutes, this ordinance would be the place to do it. So I just, to the staff, I think you had expressed some concerns about using the term extreme fiscal necessity. I wanted to just hear you opine about the use of that term.
Madam President, if I might respond.
Please.
I think the context in which the Honorable Councilmember Cobb used that phrase relates to the potential not funding position for the Public Ethics Commission, if I recall. It is that precise language in this context that we strongly urge you to move away from. It is alarmist in the eyes of the rating agencies. It absolutely is. Secondly, what we're proposing here, which I understand you don't have now, only 5 votes are required under your current ordinance for one-time expenditures for one-time, ongoing expenditures for one-time revenues. This resolution that we would come back and propose, I think, requires a supermajority. So I think that your concern about not setting a high bar is really addressed in that regard. But I would urge you to stay away from phrases like extreme financial emergencies for the purposes of adopting your budget pursuant to your one-time revenues for ongoing expenditures.
All right, Mr. Guy,
Yes.
you, and I also would like to address the
For the city administrator, I appreciate your recommendation. Is there any other areas that you would like to highlight to the public and the council in terms of considering the support?
No, I think that the 2 issues that are before you in this ordinance, one is to change that very title that you would use for considering these expenditures. The other goes to your threshold of the real estate transfer tax, the amount that you would use for considering funding for that purpose.
So the language in the document in front of us has your full blessing.
I would recommend it, yes.
All right, I actually want to weigh in and Paul and Mr. Call. I am comfortable with the language proposed by staff that says that 6 out of 8 of the council members must vote on a resolution stating that there is a fiscal necessity, and also requiring that the staff explain the necessity for using the one-time real estate transfer tax revenues, and then also explaining how they shall, what steps they shall take in order to return to not having to do that. So I think I also really agree with our current administration and what has been explained to us by previous administrations, that uses of the words like extreme just signal very scary things to the bond rating agencies, and then our credit rating of the city goes down. So we have to be careful about what language we use. Mr. Hall, you are next.
Thank you, Madam President. So this is essentially to change our terminology, moving away from the risky word emergency, fiscal emergency, and requiring essentially a 2/3 vote of our city council for making these types of expenditures. This does not deal with the whole question of 40 million or 12 or 13%. That's a separate. We deal with that separately. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, so I'm okay with this.
Okay. Any other, Ms. Tappan?
Just a technical clarification. It says 2/3 of the council. It also says 6 out of 8 of the council. And I'm curious what would be the interpreted application were there not to be 8 council members at a particular time.
I think it says a super majority, comma, 6 out of 8.
Right. So if there were not to be a full complement of 8 council members,
Present at a meeting, for instance, you mean, or if we had a vacancy.
would it, in other words, if there were 7, would it have to be 6? Would it be 6 out of 7? Would that be the?
That's the city attorney.
I believe so, yes, because it specifically states 6.
Ms. Parker, I think the concern is that it's also specifying 6 out of 8, and I think she's saying, what if at some point we only have 7 council members, either on the council or present at a meeting, that we just want to be very clear that it does require 6 council members, no matter how many people are in the room or serving on the council.
Yeah, I think unless there was an amendment to the charter to eliminate, I see, a vacancy wouldn't be a factor. But it certainly would be fine to make a change here to say by a super majority vote of 6, and not even reference it.
Should we do that? A supermajority of 6 of the city council members. Okay. All right. With that, we got more people on the queue. Mr. Gallo?
I just want to second Councilmember Sheff's motion.
I'd be happy to make the motion. This actually was my proposal.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Okay, so.
In deep collaboration with the staff, we compromised on some things.
So, and the city attorney's already spoken. Madam Mayor, we are only talking about, we're just talking about the language, the standard for amending the one-time use of real estate transfer tax. We're not talking about the percentage or the amount, nor are we talking about a just Pardon?
It's just for this particular time.
No, it is permanent, but it is only a piece of the 3 things we've been talking about.
And I apologize, I was testifying in Sacramento. We don't know yet because there are not enough committee members. We're still rounding up Mr. Call. But I just wanted to point out that the original version had just the simple majority council. This is a change to the supermajority.
Yes, which we think it needs to be a more serious act. All right, with that, are we ready for a vote? All right, all those in favor of the motion to adopt these changes in the fiscal policy ordinance, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So that is 7 ayes and 1 excused.
We now go to item S7. It is a resolution authorizing a $50,000 administrative support grant to the Oakland Private Industry Council. And I am showing 3 speakers on here.
All right. Ms. Barnes.
Yes, good afternoon, Council. Deborah Barnes, Department of Contracts and Compliance Division, Office of the City Administrator. Today, staff recommends that the City Council adopt a resolution authorizing the City Administrator to give the Oakland Private Industry Council a one-time administrative support grant not to exceed $50,000. Thank you.
Well, let's, okay, it's been moved and seconded, but we also have speakers. And you know what, council members, I'm going to clear this queue, and then I want you to push your buttons again if you wish to speak on this item. Okay. All right, Madam Clerk, would you call the speakers?
Robin Robinson, Gabe Blair Cobb, and Clyde Nelson.
All right, those speakers in any order, each person has 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening.
Ms. Cobb, would you pull the mic down so we can hear you better?
I am Gay Claire Cobb, CEO of the Oakland Private Industry Council, and while we certainly do appreciate and need this payment, I want the council to be clear that this is payment for work that was performed at the request of the city, specifically with staff of the city. A range of functions which I won't detail at this moment, but it is important for the council to know that without these services having been asked of us to perform and having been performed, that the city would have returned approximately an additional $500,000 to the state, about $350,000 of which would have been youth money for low-income young people in the city of Oakland. This is in addition to the $650 that was returned last year, as you know. These services were reported on in depth to the city. Our invoice for the services was submitted in September of last year, 2013, which at this point is 9 months ago. I think I don't have to tell you the enormous cash flow problems that this creates especially for nonprofit organizations who are already operating on a very slender thread, financially speaking. There are harmful consequences to not paying bills on time, the city not paying bills on time. So I am here just to provide you with additional information to answer any questions. I should also add that this federal money I have 2 minutes from Ms. Ravenel.
Which I only give, you only get 1 minute.
Oh, that's right. I'll only take less than that probably. But the city, in the expenditure of these federal dollars pursuant to the Workforce Investment Act, relies completely on the nonprofit sector to do this very important work for your constituents. These are services that involve counseling, training, data management, placement, payments to employers who are willing to hire people in our community who need some extra help. So it's actually something that I'm hoping that you will consider seriously. We've talked about this before. We know that the community and others as well, and certainly service providers, have a huge concern with the amount of money that the city takes off the top. This council has actually noted that and has required skin in the game. That is your term that you used about a year ago at this time. So I want to thank you for this opportunity, just to give you more background. I can answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. And is there a remaining speaker or not?
I think we have a remaining speaker.
Pardon me, Ms. McElhenney? Okay. If you wish to speak for one more minute, you may do so. Essentially, that person's ceding you time.
Oh, thank you, whoever you are. I want to actually ask for your consideration in the application of the city's prompt payment ordinance that was adopted by this council in December of 2007 for situations such as these. The prompt payment ordinance does exact or levy penalties for not paying promptly, and the concept here is that not only are private businesses harmed when they aren't paid, but nonprofits may be harmed even more when they are not paid. So I understand there's some gray area with respect to the prompt payment ordinance. I'm happy to have that conversation in detail. The way I read it, and I reviewed it very carefully, there is no exclusion for grant-funded programs in the prompt payment ordinance. There is no specific exclusion. Thanks.
Ms. Schaff, did you want to speak?
You know, that was going to be my question, because I was asking Ms. Cobb about this matter prior to the meeting and was surprised to find out that the prompt payment ordinance did not apply to this case. And I was curious, and I just want to recognize, I'm sorry she's not here, Councilmember Brooks, who led the charge on that. If it does not apply to grants, I was curious why it was not made to apply to grant-funded programs, because I know it is a provision of service. I know it was adopted prior to my time on the council, and whether or not an amendment could be made going forward.
An amendment to say what?
That the prompt payment ordinance applies to grant-funded programs as well.
Well, City Attorney.
And obviously we're not doing it tonight, I'm just wondering if it was a legal prohibition.
The language that says that it applies expressly and solely to contracts for purchases, and that would not be a grant. However, this council would certainly amend that.
So include it. Thank you. Through the chair, there would be no prohibition to applying it to contracts for services.
It says contracts for purchases. I think it would be purchases of services. Grant is distinct in different entity.
Actually,
Wait, that answers my question. Thank you.
if I may just add one.
Excuse me, Ms. Cobb.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Yeah. At this point, you're signed up as a public speaker, and it's not a dialogue. But if you would like to make a brief clarification, but we're not going to be going back and forth.
No, I understand, but I'm asking for some consideration at this point, as there is no specific exclusion in the language of the ordinance to exclude grant-funded programs. The harm is the harm, regardless. But I actually forgot the point I was going to make. Oh, I do want to remind the council, and I will, if I may, share with you a letter, but I want to call your attention from our...
Ms. Cobb, you've had 4 minutes to make your case, and I think the votes are probably there for your item, but it's time for the council to be able to talk.
Madam President,
Yes.
if you would indulge me, because this is responsive to the issue I was bringing up, and so I know you allow us to ask questions of speakers when it's relevant.
All right, could I put something else in? The grant that is being discussed here is something that we are granting tonight. It is not, this is not actually about the WIB or WIA-funded work. There is not one word in this report that references the WIB or WIA, which is the only work that the Private Industry Council does for the city. We are tonight being asked to just give a grant of general fund money to a longstanding public benefit corporation that has served tens of thousands of Oakland residents. Due to funding reductions, the agency has experienced financial challenges. The one-time grant is in recognition of OPIC's valuable service for Oakland residents. So there is no prompt payment issue here because if there was work contracted to be paid for out of WIB money, that is where the money would have come from. And frankly, if we are talking about work that was done pursuant to a WIA contract, then the WIB board would actually have to approve the money. The only way that this can be approved tonight as a grant of general fund money is if you are acknowledging that they did not do it pursuant to a WIA contract. So it's either it's a gift, it is something you do because a grant. This has nothing to do with the prompt payment ordinance, is what I would like to put out there. But please go ahead with your question.
Ms. Schaff, if I can just make one quick response.
Thank you.
It is because this is not the recommendation this evening is that this payment will not be covered or come out of WIA dollars. It is coming out of general fund. Thank you to the city administrator for this. But that is precisely why, in this case, the prompt payment ordinance would be applicable, because this payment is not grant funded. This is coming out of the city's general fund and would apply.
Well, thank you. It's a matter that we'll continue to look into.
All right. Actually, Ms. Kaplan is in the queue before you, Mr. Guy.
Thank you very much. And if I may, just a brief question to the speaker, just to be clear, you are saying that you have explicitly been told in prior transactions that funding related to the work you handle is not subject to the prompt payment policy?
I have been advised of that verbally. I have asked for a formal opinion about it. I do not have a formal opinion. I have I guess what's an informal opinion kindly provided by Ms. Barnes, but that opinion actually says that it applies to purchases of services, which is exactly what you're doing when you contract with nonprofits. You are purchasing a service.
Well, thank you so much for that clarification, and thank you, and frankly, to all the providers for this important work. And I think obviously tonight we should approve what's before us so we can move this forward. But I do think that this serious issue, which has been raised before, which is that funds to nonprofits, whether they're a grant or a purchase of goods or a purchase of services, do need to be prompt. And in fact, for some of our smaller nonprofits, we're endangering their very functioning when we don't pay them in a timely way. So I would just urge, and I'd be happy to work with any of my colleagues who'd like to work on this, that we bring back an amendment to the prompt payment policy so that the language, thank you, I kept from across the dais here, so that there would be no ambiguity that the prompt payment policy really is intended to cover all of these scenarios. And happy to move the item that's before us tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. I would just say, ethically, why would you not want it to apply to nonprofits? Is there any reason why you wouldn't want it to apply to those who are struggling most in terms of the cash flow? Thank you. Mr. Cobb.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you for the information, Ms. Cobb. I just wanted to confirm, I was a little confused, maybe more confused than came into this. I'm not objecting to this at all. It's only $2,000, but first of all, just clarification. This is one-time money, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then to either the city administrator or Ms. Barnes, there was a suggestion that this money is in effect for payment. In effect for payment of things that happened in the past. That was what the testimony was. Is that because it doesn't say that in your brief staff report here, so I'm wondering, is there some confusion, or am I totally confused here?
Through the President, as you have heard in the last 20 minutes, this has more history than you have time to consider tonight. It is a tangled web. By my estimate, we have spent over $200,000 talking about it. It does result from some misunderstanding, some miscommunication, and I want to close this issue once and for all. It's coming out of the city administrator's budget, incidentally.
Okay. All right, I assume the money will be spent on good things, and so let's move forward.
Mr. Dyer.
Madam President, I just first of all, let me publicly thank the Private Industry Council for the job placement services with the Bimbo flower plant in my district, where 200 to 300 people lost their jobs. So their professionalism and the courtesy extended to our employees was really appreciated. And so with that, I'd like to call a question for them.
All right, I am actually just going to speak briefly. I will be, I think, the only person voting no. As a member of the WIB, there was a lot of discussion on this, and I can understand our city administrator's desire just to close out the discussion. But there was a lot of disagreement about whether what was requested was paid for, was done and all that. But as Mr. Gardner says, there was a lot of disagreement around that. But my concern about the way this report is written is it basically is saying a very worthwhile nonprofit is experiencing challenging time. A worthwhile nonprofit that has done good work and served many Oakland residents has experienced hard financial times, and therefore we're going to make a grant of general fund money. My observation in 9 years on the council is that there are 100 or 200 wonderful, very worthwhile nonprofits with whom the city grants for all kinds of things through the Oakland Fund for Children and Youth, the Measure Y, and there are competitive processes for that, and that every single one of them has dealt with extremely challenging financial times, as we all know. And my concern with this is that we set a precedent whereby every one of these nonprofits now, will be coming to the city saying, well, gee, I did a lot of work and you didn't really, pay me the full value of it. And I just think it sets a precedent that is not a great precedent to set. So for that reason, I'll be voting no. But Madam Clerk, please go ahead and call the question. I will, since we're not doing one by one vote. All those in favor of the item, please say aye. Aye. Any abstentions? Any oppositions? So that will be 6 ayes and 1 no.
We now move to the first discussion item that is listed on the calendar this evening. It is the fiscal year 2014 to 2015 mid-cycle budget amendments. Madam Chair, members, I show 47 speaker cards on the other.
Okay, well, we are going to start with the presentation from the Budget Director, and then we'll get to our public speakers.
Good evening again, Sarah Schlenk, Interim Budget Director. So just as a reminder, this is a continuation of the discussion that we started on June 2nd. In between then and now, we've published 3 batches of questions and responses. I think we've almost gotten to everything that we've gotten from council members. There's maybe a handful at most questions that are outstanding that we'll try and wrap up this week and time for Tuesday. And then we also put in just a very short list of errata in the packet on Friday that you have before you as well. So with that, staff is here from all departments to respond to any questions you might have. Thank you.
All right, well, that was pretty short report. All right, so let us go to the public speakers. Madam Clerk, would you call the names?
Helen Block, Jennifer Watsky, Catherine Sternbeck, Pat Tony, Mary Arlene Farrell, Susan Ginsky, Xavier Sabarja, Bruce Long, Antonio Vasquez, Alan Newlands, Vianney Barrios, Vicente Soto, Ian Drum, Andy Nelson, and 2 families, and I'll still
All right, folks, and you can approach the mic in any order. Everybody will get 2 minutes. If someone sees time to you, you get an extra minute for that person, and then that person does not speak. And you get up, so you get a maximum of 5 minutes is for one person. If you have questions about those rules, feel free to ask before you begin speaking. Looks like the library folks are negotiating here over who talks.
Good evening, my name is Helen Block, and Mary Farrell and Brittany Olati are ceding time to me this evening.
Okay, so 4 minutes for you then?
Yes.
All right.
I've decided to talk to council this evening about public safety and the role that the library plays in that. And my story is a personal one. My journey towards becoming a children's librarian has been a long one. I'm speaking this evening, although I work as a public librarian in Oakland, I'm speaking this evening as an individual. Some of you may be aware of the fact that I'm an attorney, and I used to work as a public defender at both the trial and appellate levels. When I was a public defender, I worked on every kind of case, representing clients accused of everything from drunk and disorderly to capital murder. One of the things that I came to clearly realize was that once a person was part of the criminal justice system, it was too late. I might be able to have the charges or the sentences pending before them reduced. I might even be able to persuade a jury to find my client not guilty. But for the vast majority of people I represented, they were people who had drug or alcohol problems, people who suffered from mental illness, people who had no literacy skills and many combinations thereof, and they were overwhelmingly poor. For these people, regardless of my hard work, it was too late to make a meaningful difference in their lives. How does this relate to the library and my later life choices? I gave up being an attorney so I could make a difference in people's lives, and in a small way, in the past 12 years, I believe I have. While having an adequately staffed police force is important, police alone cannot keep our citizens in Oakland safe. They are just one part of an overall strategy that must invest in our community's public safety, and I believe that the Oakland Public Library is a vital contributor to this strategy. How? Here are just a few of the ways. Libraries are community centers where all are welcome, a place where kids and teens can go after school and stay out of trouble. Libraries are places where computers provide free access to the internet, high-speed broadband, and computer help. In fiscal year 2012-2013, 304,756 computer sessions were recorded at the library. What kind of computer help do people get there? They get help with homework, they get help with job applications, they get help with housing needs, unemployment benefits, and we offer classes to help people who need help learning how to use computers. Libraries are places where kids can go after school, where they're kept off the streets and safe. We help them succeed in school. We have enrichment programs like the Museum of Children's Art and Gardening. It's a place where kids who are hungry can come for summer lunch. And it's a place where kids who are falling behind during the school year in reading can come and catch up through our summer reading program. And I hit you with lots of statistics about that last week. For teens, the library is a place both for learning leadership skills and learning volunteer skills and giving back to the community. It's also a place of tutoring. For adults, it's a community center where all are welcome. We have a series of job workshops. Second Start provides literacy skills, and we have other programs like Lawyers in the Library. I ask for your support tonight by voting for Mayor Kwan's budget revision that would add $500,000 to the Measure Q fund. This is a great first step in helping to close the $3 to $4 million budget gap the library faces during the 2015 to 17 budget cycle. Thank you for your support.
is Alan Wynn. I own Generation Beauty Supply International Limited. This is regarding the BRT transit that's being planned for the City of Oakland. I have 4 full-time employees, 2 part-time employees. Gross sales about $800,000 a year. Gross sales about $800,000 a year. I run a wholesale business supply. I attract customers from all over the Bay, about 2-hour radius or so. They will come to my business and also go to other businesses to purchase items, do their shopping. My big concerns with the BRT is loss of one lane traffic, also parking congestion, traffic congestion, and my business relies heavily on those type of things to be open and free for customers to come in. With the BRT, also loss of loading. We load about 6 or 7 times a week, and the way the BRT is set up, we won't have a loading zone, and the loading zone there now will be inadequate because it's only roughly about 30 feet, in some places than 20. Some of the rakes that come in are 30 to 55 feet long, so we're going to be having to block the only traffic lanes that we have since BRT is taking out the lane for buses only. I recently bought the building, and I was never notified or even any type of public announcements about the BRT. And it's been in the works for over 10 years as of I know. And businesses up and down East 14th have only known about this within the last year. I recently bought the building, and if I knew this was in the plans, I would not have bought the building. Because the way my business is set up, it's not going to work for the way the BRT is planned. I want to stay in business and conduct my business as usual, but the way the BRT is set up, it's going to hurt my business and other small businesses in the area that rely on open streets, easy access to their business, and also parking on the street. I do not have parking in my space. If I can say that.
Okay,
yeah. I want to do business where I am and stay where I am. I'm just asking the city to help the small businesses like myself and some type of funding to help us stay and conduct our business as usual in the city of Oakland. Thank you.
Hi, City Council. Good evening. My name is Lin Chuang. I am owner Center Park Market, corner B12 and 5th Avenue. My customer, I have 7 full-time and 18 part-time employees. I have 5 and 6 units in sale 1 year. My customer came from all over Bay Area because of the special product that I sell for Asian community. The BRT will help my business a lot because they put the bus station stop right in front of my entrance, B12 Street. I have blocked visibility of my store because of the station shelter and the racing platform. I have many produce deliveries that will no longer able to happen in front of my store. The BRT stop make it very dangerous for driver to turn into my parking lot. I have asked the city and AC Transit to move the bus station. If they don't, I will need to make it change to my store, or I may have relocated. The city needs to put the money into fund to help to change my because BRT costs the family. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Tran.
Good evening, Andrew Nelson, Daisy. How do you see by the city this time to me? So you just heard from 2 of the many businesses that are likely to need to make big changes as a result of the reconfiguration of International Boulevard on East 14th. We've identified 300 heavily truck and auto dependent businesses along that boulevard, providing well over 1,000 jobs. You guys have tough decisions to make. We appreciate that. We know that anything that you find likely takes away from something else, and there's very few rabbits to pull out of the hat. But these folks have a need that's created by public action. And so for that reason, we think that it's appropriate that there be a one-time contribution from the general fund to augment the CDBG allocation of $1 million. We think that $5 million is about what's needed. AC Transit has stepped up and done what they seem to be only able to do, which is offer funds for technical assistance. We'd like to be able to go with the city in partnership to other public agencies to fill this gap. But we need, it's a city and AC Transit project. And the city needs to get in as well, beyond our CDBG allocation. So as you consider your mid-cycle review of the budget, please consider an augmentation to this business sustainability fund for the BRT. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speakers.
My name is Susan Ginsky, and this is Suzanne Cubison, and she's seating. I would like to speak about neighborhood libraries and the importance of neighborhood libraries. We moved here from the East Coast 15 years ago to Oakland, and one of the most wonderful things about Oakland is that no matter where we lived, and we've lived in 3 or 4 different communities since we've been here, there has been a neighborhood library very close by, within walking distance. Now, the most important thing to me about the library is the book group. Doesn't matter what month it is, on the third Tuesday, there's going to be a book group in my library. And that is what's important to me. But I want to speak about how the libraries have been important to me for probably 70 years. Now, at this point, the libraries that I'm talking about were in a working class city, Pawtucket, Rhode Island. I was 2 blocks from school. On the way home, there was a neighborhood library. Very important to my growing up. I still remember the names of the books I got out of that library. My favorite was Flicka, Ricka, and Dicka. And so what I want to speak about is not only how important it is to me, but how important these neighborhood libraries are to the children in our community. We have next to our library a playground, a vibrant playground that's always full. The kids go back and forth between the library and that playground. It is still a vital and important part of our community for kids. And taking away even one would mean that some child is not going to be able to walk to a library. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jenny Waski, and I love libraries. They are special places. Walking in, the mood is quiet, and another world opens up. No matter the busy streets outside and city noises, the library always feels like a sanctuary. Whether or not I am picking up books for myself or as a teacher for my classroom, wanting to browse or attending a library event, walking into the library provides a respite and inspiration. I use the Lakeview branch on El Embarcadero between Lakeshore and Grand Avenue. It is the best community library that I have been part of. Whatever the time, this particular branch is always teeming with life. Children and their families hang out at the little tables in the children's section. The computers are regularly used. The large tables reserved for quiet reading are busy with people respectfully reading together. There's a table filled with information and flyers of things going on in the community and the libraries. One of the best parts of this cozy and community-oriented library is the meeting room, used for all sorts of activities. There are always interesting photographs or paintings from a local artist hanging Some regular activities at Lakeview are weekly knitting, chess playing, and story time. Monthly activities like book club and writing are ones that I would not miss. There are also special events like performers, authors, and speakers who come to share at the Lakeview as well. I use the Lakeview Library because it has that wonderful community feel, and it's friendly, it's welcoming, and it's very accessible because of its perfect size and location. So I would like my city council to approve the measure for the budget to include that $500,000 for the future budget shortfall. I would also like to ask my city council to make it a priority for Oakland libraries to be fully funded. So libraries like Lakeview that serve its community and the librarians that are always willing to help and connect people to what they need stay. Thank you.
Padme Sriharan, David Bolanos, Ruby Bernstein, Leslie Mandrosbell, Sriharan Jaga, Karen Long, Janine Shimatsu, Elaine Weiner, Emily Fox, Sarah Rogers, Mary Cochran, Catherine Frenchurch, I'm so sorry if I butchered that, I'm sorry. John Sturr, Sharon Phillips, and Emily Rosenberg, and Al Austin.
All right, come up.
Good evening. Myself and my wife are new residents to this community. One of the best experience was going to walking to the library in our neighborhood, and I was shocked to hear that it was destined to be closed. We moved here from Southeast Michigan, near Detroit area. You know how financially difficult for the civilian. But one thing they didn't touch is the library system. The thing was open for 7 days, 65 hours a week, and it was filled with school kids and volunteers helped to operate the library. Library is important to spread the knowledge, keep the kids away from the streets, and learn things. I have lived in many countries, and the first thing I've seen in some of the libraries is funded by Carnegie. You know Carnegie, the steel magnate. He funded the libraries. I've seen plaques that he funded the libraries all over the world, and here you are thinking of closing the libraries. And this vicinity, we have a university, world-renowned university, which is Berkeley, and the center of the technology hub in the world, and we cannot afford to close our library system. So I request the council to find somehow funds necessary to keep the library system open and not close any one of them. In fact, put in more money to the library system, make it better. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Leslie Mandrosbell, and I'm speaking for District 1, speaking in support of library funding. David Bolanos and Ruby Bernstein are ceding me their minutes.
4 minutes.
The Oakland Library and its branches do more than loan books. They're vibrant, dynamic community centers. For children of all ages, the library provides after-school programs to socialize, help with homework, provide a safe haven away from home from 3 to 6 p.m. Many children who don't have a computer at home find one at the library, the place that they can get their work done. For teens, the library provides dedicated spaces called teen zones, as well as special programs, services, and special librarians. And one thing about the library, though, is it's not just for children. In fact, the public library is possibly the only place that is open to all Oaklanders, all ages, all ethnicities, all incomes, all circumstances. Universal access for all. One example goes beyond even books and media. Our tool lending library in the basement of the tennis club branch now checks out about 5,000 tools a month to Oaklanders from every district. When people are out of work, one of the first things many do is go to the library. The Public Library Funding and Technology Access Study found that some of the most important tasks in the library these days are helping people create resumes, access online job resources, and apply for jobs online. The library conducts workshops on starting and running small businesses. Patrons learn to read and write through the Second Start adult literacy program. Every time a librarian helps a patron get hired or develop a skill that makes her more employable, that librarian bolsters the economic security of the entire city. And our librarians do that every single day. As you know, the library faces a $3 million deficit that could force the closure of 6 to 8 branches next year in 2015. Tonight, we're asking you to support Mayor Kwan's addition of $500,000 to the Measure Q Library Reserve as an important first step to address the projected shortfall. $500,000 is a great start. It's not the only money the library will need to continue providing its essential services to all Oaklanders, but it is a beginning. We look forward to working with you in the months ahead to find the answer to long-term sustainability for the Oakland Library. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Catherine Sturbins, and I'm chairperson of the Library Advisory Commission. Just here to say a quick 15-second thank you first to Councilmember Cobb and Mayor Kwan for adding this amendment for you all to take action on. To say thank you in advance to all of you who will vote to support it. Also want to say thank you to every single library advocate behind me for showing up tonight and for all of their dedication. And I'm pretty certain I can say that nobody behind me here is going to be willing to see any of these branches close, and we know that you're on the same page with us. So thank you very much.
And your name, please?
She wants you to name J.S.
J.S. with it? Okay.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Judy Shimatsu, and I'm a member of Oakland's Library Advisory Commission. As you know, the Oakland Public Library faces a budget gap of more than $3 million next year in 2015. If not addressed, this can mean the closure of 6 to 8 branches, or elimination of the library's entire budget for new materials and the closure of up to 3 branch libraries. There are so many ways that we can measure the value the library brings to our city. One of the most critical roles the library plays in Oakland is bridging the technology gap. At times of economic hardship, Oaklanders depend on their libraries and librarians. Internet access enables residents to apply for housing, food, and support services that are increasingly available only online. Families earning less than $15,000 a year are 2 to 3 times more likely to rely on libraries and computers than those who earn more than $75,000 a year. Libraries help bridge the divide between those who have access to information and those who do not. 62% of U.S. libraries report being the only source of free public access to computers and the internet in their communities. The library bridges the technology gap in Oakland every day. It provides 190 public access computers throughout all of its branches in the main library. In fiscal year 2012 to 2013, the Oakland Library logged 304,756 computer sessions system-wide. That averages out to about 835 sessions per calendar day a year. In addition to that, the library's team volunteers provide one-on-one computer tutoring at 6 library locations through a program called Ready, Set, Connect. And through that program, they've delivered over 1,500 tutoring sessions during the recent 7-month period. That number clearly illustrates the need for computer access as well as training that your constituents seek through the library. Please make sure this vital link remains available to Oaklanders who have no other access to this technology and support the addition of $500,000 to Measure Q as a first step to addressing this projected shortfall. This is a strong first step on the path towards the library's financial stability, and we look forward to walking that path with you. The Commission thanks you for keeping the doors open and the lights on at all of our neighborhood libraries. Thank you for remembering that every single cent of public money spent to maintain the library's staffing, programs, and services directly helps educate, heal, and inspire our city. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sharon Phillips. I met one of my best friends in the library over 50 years ago. a military brat. I went to 17 different schools, and at every place I went to the library first. I was never bullied in the library. My kids and I later were consistently supported. To cut loose, to search and explore, and learn in libraries. I discovered science fiction in a library. By 1960, I wanted to be a laborer in space. I wanted to mine ores and haul rocks in space. My daughter discovered Irian Jaya and Papua New Guinea and the power of flying bats in a library. I taught myself to read early medieval scripts in a library. I think libraries are brilliant, and the fact that libraries might close in this city is reprehensible. And I urge you to fund them adequately, to keep them open as long as you possibly can. Libraries are brilliant.
Good evening, Mayor Klein and council members. My name is Kathy Franciak. My husband and I have been residents in Oakland for over 40 years and love it. I too grew up in libraries, my favorite place. And so I decided to become a librarian. And 2 years ago, I retired from the Oakland Public Library after more than 15 years of wonderful adventures, a new one every day. I also became the branch manager at the West Oakland Library toward the end of my tenure. Before that, I worked as a PTA paid librarian in one of Oakland's elementary schools. Well, it wasn't long that I was at the West Oakland Library when I realized that the library is not just a place to borrow books, magazines, DVDs, and now e-books, of course. It is really an important social service link for our very diverse residents and to the visitors in our community. Provides, as you've heard, free computer use and help with those computers. And it directs the many people who come in to city and community agencies for help in finding a job or for an answer to a question the library might not be able to answer right then and there. It also provides meeting rooms for use by the community and programs, educational and informal. Possibly as even more important, but just as important, is the library's educational link to our community, to the children, teens, and adults. Children's librarians hold story times to introduce the young to the joys of books. They sponsor programs and welcome class visits from the schools, and at the same time, teach them how to use the library. Sadly, there are very few professionally managed libraries in the city of Oakland anymore. So our children here desperately need the services of the public library because if they want to go to college, they need to know how to use a library. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Emily Fox, and I would like to speak in favor of the proposed budget amendments for the Oakland Animal Shelter. First, I'd like to thank the council for last Tuesday's passing the motion to move the shelter from the police department to a standalone department in the city. I think it's a wonderful step that's really going to improve our ability to serve both the citizens of Oakland and their animals. And I'd like to urge the council to remember to pass the proposed budget amendments that the mayor has put forth, including $160,000 to continue the funding for the animal care attendant positions that were created in January, as well as the additional $400,000 that will be for the staffing that will be crucial for this transition to be a success. So please, I hope you will consider that
Long, and I am an Oakland resident since 1985. I'm also the head of the Friends of Diamond Branch Library. And I almost decided not to say anything this evening because you've heard so many things about libraries. And they're all true, but there are two more things that I just wanted to share with you. One is the importance of the libraries for seniors in our area. The Diamond area has a lot of senior residents, and their home away from home is the Diamond Branch Library. And there's a whole lot of different senior programs that are offered for them that are unique and really irreplaceable. So these programs for seniors happen at all the branch libraries, not just at Diamond Branch. The second thing I wanted to mention is, in addition to these wonderful branches in the neighborhoods, you have got an incredible staff. What people love about Diamond Libraries are the Diamond staff. They are so helpful and caring, will do anything to help with any kind of concern that a client comes in and asks for. And so you really need to keep the libraries open and to continue supporting the staff. The last thing I'd like to say is that certainly I support Dan Kalb's proposal for $500,000 and Mayor Kwan. But in the long run, you really need to have a more sustainable form of funding for the libraries. Every 2 or 3 years, we kind of go through this, and it doesn't work. It's not fair to the staff, it's not fair to the community, it's not fair to yourselves. So please, in the long run, let's look for a better way to fund our wonderful public libraries. Thank you.
I'm Emily Rosenberg, and most of you know that I'm the co-founder of the Oakland Dog Owners Group. But what you don't know is that I used to be a City of Oakland librarian.
Yeah, I'm every day.
So I do have broad interests, and I just want to support everything that's been said. I think you all know how important this is, and I think you're going to do everything you can to keep our libraries vital. I was very struck by Mr. Gardner's statement that we'd spent $200,000 working on a particular issue on funded, the one that Mrs. Cobb came to talk about. Right? The city administrator had invested a lot of money in that issue. You've also invested a lot of money and staff time and community time in setting up a new plan for a new type of animal shelter. So I'm here tonight to ask you to give the fully needed funding for that shelter. Without a commitment to that funding, the voting you did, the research you did, the staff time invested in the plan to make a standalone shelter will just go away. That money will be down the drain. We saw it happen when I was trying to get a dog park at Lake Merritt, and we worked 4 years of staff time and community time, and it just went away. All that effort went away. Don't let the staff time invested in creating the proper kind of animal shelter go away. Give it the funding it needs this year to succeed with an efficient and ethical staffing program. Thank you. Thank you.
And I'll continue calling names. Jared Kluger, Jenny Vida, Maura Moylan, Dana Slutsky, Karen Lynn, Naomi Stewart, Amy Martin, Gabe Fairclough, Tracy Carter, Rana Alexi, John Carmen, Kathleen Nagel, and Poster Dean, Laura Anderson, Barbara Carmino, Al Marshall, and Maria Steelman.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Steelman.
Whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Mayor, City Council, you guys should be getting to see me by now. And I should at least be your favorite retired Oakland Raider in the Bay Area. At least. I know every time I come up here, I try to keep it really positive because anyone can come up here and it's negative, it's a death. That's the easy thing to do. Trust me, I get it here from the volunteers. But, you know, last Tuesday, I know there's a lot of things going. I don't think you guys know what all is going on. I didn't know all the stuff that you guys did until I've been sitting in these meetings, and I commend you on that. That's a lot. But there's a lot of positive, since last Tuesday to today, there's so much positive stuff going on. I've got volunteers are talking about coming back, because I'm not sure if you know or not, the last 6 months we've lost a lot of them. And it's, I stress to you how much the volunteers, I mean, every you hear all these stories, the Oakland Animal Shelter changes people's lives. I went in there 2 times, and I've been there for 10 years. And I just really want you guys to know that what you're doing, the actions that you're taking, is affecting a lot of people. It's not only affecting the animals, but it's also affecting the attitude. It's bringing in more volunteers. Some of them are holding off just to make sure it's going forward, but it's a really positive thing. And you know, like I said, you can negative the death, and somehow or another I have to deal with all the negative stuff. But as you can see, I try to do things really positive. I don't really dwell on it. That's my job at the shelter, to keep things going. And you know, people say negative feeds negative. It also works the other way around. You know, there's so many positive, happy things going on. People are excited. They're starting to come back. You know, that's contagious. So I just want to thank you guys for making it a priority. I know you guys have a lot to do, and hopefully I get to run for city council.
Good evening, council members. I'm Ginny Vida, a cat volunteer at the Oakland Animal Shelter. Just want to thank the council for all the work that you've done to propose changes to the budget and the structure of the Oakland Animal Shelter, and especially to Councilmember Libby Schaff for her leadership on this. My council member, Noel Gallo, and Rebecca Kaplan, thank you for your assistance as well. And all of you who have approved in previous meetings the establishment of the shelter as a standalone agency of the city. It's wonderful news. And just want to thank you also for the funding that's been included, the retention of funding for the animal care attendants, and the additional $400,000 that will enable the shelter to hire not only the director, but also 2 shelter managers, one of whom will be responsible for overseeing the farming out some of the animals to other shelters and to rescue groups, so that we can find more homes for these adoptable animals. So thank you very much. I'm really thrilled at these proposals.
Good evening, City Council members and Mayor Kwan. Thank you for all the hard work that you have invested in improving our animal shelter. I've lived in Oakland for 10 years, and I've been involved in animal rescue for over 20. My beloved Shih Tzu Henry came from Oakland Animal Shelter. People are always amazed when I tell them that he came from Oakland Animal Shelter. They think that our shelter just has pit bulls in it, and I happen to love pit bulls. But there are many beautiful, wonderful dogs there that are waiting for good homes. I never thought I would see the day when so many shelters are adopting a no-kill philosophy. It is very important for the heart and soul of Oakland to fund this shelter adequately. We need programs for children to learn kindness and empathy through caring for animals. We need programs for the sick and the elderly so they can keep their companion animals. As Gandhi said, the greatness of a nation and its moral progress can be judged by the way its animals are treated. Please continue to help the shelter thrive. Thank you.
Ma'am, your name, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Mara Moylan. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Amy Martin, and I'm an Oakland resident at District 3. I also work for the Oakland Public Library. I have for 6 years as a children's librarian, and I want to express my sincere thanks and appreciation tonight for the proposal to allocate $500,000 additional to the library's budget next year. I think, as others have said, it's a great first step in getting us toward closing the $3 million gap that we have to cover, and I'm excited to see what happens. I'll tell you a little bit about what I've done at the Oakland Public Library in the last 6 years, since we talked about libraries and public safety. Since I've been at OPL, I've done a lot of helping kids find books. I've done a lot of ordering the best new books that are out there, and I've come up with hours and hours of free after-school programming for neighborhood kids who are not always into it, but I do my best. I have also talked down mentally ill adults from states of severe agitation. I have helped young girls being followed by strange men connect with the Oakland Police Department. I've helped queer youth find a shelter that would take them for the night after their church turned them away. I've broken up fights with my bare hands. I've comforted a 5-year-old child whose mother was in the bathroom doing drugs. These experiences are not unique to me. I can find a lot of other librarians who will tell you stories like this. So I do think of the library as a resource for public safety, and again, I really appreciate your allocating or deciding to allocate that extra $500,000. I really hope that we can close the gap all the way in the next fiscal year. I look forward to it. Thank you.
Hello again, my name is Maria Steelman, and I'm a dog foster, and I started City of Oakland, and I'm amazed by the very quick response of Oakland residents who get on Facebook, which is a wonderful place to connect with people. Dog people love Facebook. I'm really thrilled that there's a lot of momentum now behind shelter reform, and so the funding is really important. The advisory committee and the changes that will be made, hopefully taking into account the experience of others that have reformed shelters, open admission shelters, shelters with larger problems than Oakland, believe it or not. I hope that those people can be on that advisory committee, or those ideas can get out there, because when the shelter partners with the community, you find that adoption rates go up, revenue goes up, so we invest money now, but with a functioning shelter, you can have training classes. There are ways of raising money and making the shelter more self-sufficient. So thank you very much.
Naomi Schiff, I think it speaks well of Oakland that we have the Raiders and readers in this meeting. I was a founding member of COM, the Coalition of Advocates for Lake Merritt, and I'm still going to all meetings of the DD Community Coalition. You are aware that there is a development lot at 12th Street and 1st Avenue. Today, I went and looked at some paper from 2000. I think that we could say that our volunteer architects invented that parcel. Anyway, they found it. It was new land in Oakland. And I looked at our original calculations. From the very beginning, that parcel was an integral part of the plan for Lake Merritt Boulevard and the DD improvements. We aren't really asking you for new money, but I would like to urge that the projected proceeds from selling that land be allocated to maintaining the DD improvements in conjunction with the money from the LAD and the port. We have spent so much public bond money. We really have the responsibility now to keep our wonderful new facilities in good shape. As you know, bond money can't be used for maintenance and repairs. So having put all that concrete and those plants and that water and the bridge and all that good stuff down there, rather than using the proceeds from this parcel sale to fill miscellaneous gaps in the public budget, I urge you to devote those sale proceeds to really securing this enormous new public asset. Thank you.
My name is Laura Anderson. I've been an Oakland homeowner and council member Shafts District for 15 years, and I have a small business in Oakland as well. I'm here again to thank the council, Chief Went, and the City Administrator's Office for your continued support for change at the Oakland Animal Shelter. I'm also here to ask that the proposed additional $400,000 in shelter staffing be approved, and to make sure this includes 2 shelter managers in order to cover daily operations and rescue coordination. I would also like to ask that the foster program be reinstated for these positions. Thank you again for all your work to improve the lives of Oakland's animals, lost and abandoned, and for their dedicated staff and all the volunteers who care for them.
Good evening. We are just here to add our voices to, we came to support the animal shelter and then we found out about this.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Tracy Carter. Except for a couple of years of grad school, I've lived in Oakland since 1995. And I'm raising my daughter here, Ella, and so she's kind of here to represent the kids of Oakland. She's a student at St. Paul's Episcopal School. And we came because we love dogs. Like, dogs have helped us through a lot of hard times. People who have ever rescued a dog knows that dogs rescue you probably more than you do them. And we are really sad to find out that almost a third of animals in the Oakland shelter are euthanized. My life is based around my kid and my dogs and our whole Ella's community at St. Paul's. And there's a lot of kids and families out there who really, really, really love their pets and the services that are provided by the shelter. I know a lot of people who've adopted animals from there. And we just want to say we will do our part, we'll do everything we can, and we'll come and we'll volunteer and we'll do what we can to help support, because this is an important part of our community. And we would really appreciate if you would follow through with what you said you're going to do and fully fund the Oakland Animal Shelter. And because I just want to make a town that's a great place for my kid to grow up. Please fund the animal shelter, and please don't close down any libraries. This is what makes our community. These are things that are important for us to all feel like we're in it together. Thank you.
Hi, my name is John Klein, and I'm with the Coalition of Advocates for Lake Merritt College. And I want to talk to you about Lake Merritt, but actually also I want to mention to you that with regard to funding the libraries, I'm really sorry you're in this pickle. I know that you would lavish tons of money on libraries if you could, and so I'm sorry that our country's priorities are misguided in this regard, and I wish you inspired decision-making about the libraries. And so I want to talk to the same issue that Ms. Schiff mentioned, the proceeds from the sale of that remainder parcel at First Avenue and 12th Street. I want to make sure that money goes for Measure DD and Lake Merritt maintenance. We don't want to go into general fund. When you have maintenance issues down the lake, that money is not going to appear just out of nowhere later. So this is an opportunity to safeguard and preserve that money for Lake Merritt maintenance. And the DD projects aren't done. The channel is going to be opened up, so there's going to be more facilities going out to along the channel. 20th Street and Snow Park is still to happen. So there's going to be some real maintenance needs and money in the future. So I hope that you will preserve the bond, the proceeds from the sale of that property for maintenance at the American and Measure DD. Thanks.
Good evening, council members, Mayor Kwan. Mr. Gardner, it's always a pleasure to see you back in the fold. As you can hear from our library supporters and staff, that we have a lot of things that we need to be taking care of. And as I was sitting here thinking about what I was going to say tonight, I came to the conclusion that I wanted to talk about, you ever remember being a child and you were on your way somewhere and you had to catch the bus and you got to the bus stop a little late, the bus had just took off and you missed the bus? Well, I just want to kind of take you back down memory lane for a moment. I grew up in the city of Oakland, so I can remember when they're in Vallejo now, Marine World, they actually considered doing something here in Oakland. You all wasn't here, but whatever council folks were assembled, we missed the bus. I can remember when there was a possibility of having a downtown baseball stadium down here that would have been generating tons of revenue where folks wouldn't be coming out tonight and you hearing the concerns that they have. We missed the bus. I remember a time when we were entertaining the Wayman brothers to come down to West Oakland and open up a state-of-the-art studio. I don't know what happened in the deal makings, but we missed the bus. I'm looking forward to this administration not letting us miss another bus. We can't afford it. Thank you.
Are there any other folks in the audience whose names have been called? Now's the time? Guess not. I think everybody who signed up to speak has spoken. So now we will go to our council members to talk about the budget. And Ms. Kaplan, I have you in the queue.
Thank you very much, Madam President, and thank you to the public speakers who joined us tonight. I don't know if you're intending to time us tonight, but I'll tell you.
Yes, we're timing ourselves. We each get 4 minutes at a time.
Excellent. My brief library story, which is that in 2nd grade in high school, we would walk once every week or two to the nearest library, all of them, the whole class together with the teachers. We would walk to the library and check out books. And I was a fairly good student as a kid, but the first time I ever actually got into a fight with a teacher was they had told us we could only take out books from the kids section, and I wanted to take out books from the adult section. It was the first time, it was my first experience of speaking up to power, and they did eventually let me check out books from the adult section, and here I am. So libraries improve lives, and I just wanted to make clear that we're not actually, I believe, not taking the vote tonight, that I fully support the set aside for the libraries, and thank you, Councilor McCall, for bringing that forward, because we absolutely need to retain our libraries. And we also need to maintain funding to preserve services even in bad years, because in the last economic dip, libraries were closed, for example, during winter break, which is a time of high demand, and I think that was a mistake that we should not repeat. So not only should we be setting aside funds for next year, but we should also be strategically planning how we avoid these kind of cuts in future downturns to make sure that at a time when people are unemployed and kids are off school and need libraries even more, that we don't cut them. Secondly, to the topic of the animal shelter, as of course has been mentioned, myself and my 2 colleagues have been pushing for this very hard and absolutely support the funding to continue the improvements to the animal shelter. I will just make one edit, which is in the proposed budget spreadsheet. It lists those funds being given to the police department, and since the city council has now passed the resolution to move the animal shelter out of the police department, we should just change the designation, keep the money the same, but just change it to show that it is moving out of the police department. In addition, we had a group of local businesses that came to speak about their concerns that they were not getting the business support they need as change is happening along the East 14th International Corridor. And I think this raises for us an important question that we need to look at funding going forward for what we do now that redevelopment is gone. In the past, the types of things that these businesses are asking for would have been funded out of redevelopment funds, and we still have a little bit of those left, but most of them have been taken away by the state. But their concerns are legitimate, and the things they're asking for are things we've done on past projects using redevelopment money, and so they don't deserve a cold shoulder. They deserve a response that supports the businesses as change happens on the corridor, and we need a strategy now after redevelopment for how we do that. In addition, I wanted to share with folks, I don't know if people are aware, but the Oakland City Charter requires that we conduct a disparity study to make sure that we are fully utilizing all of our businesses in our contracts, and especially to make sure that women-owned and minority-owned businesses are not being discriminated against. And we don't have a currently valid disparity study because there are certain legal requirements as to when they have to be done. And so I just wanted to call our attention to that as we prepare to further discuss the budget. In addition, and I'll say this till after other people talk because I want to bring up the department to ask them questions about it,
but our litter pickup is clearly still woefully inadequate, and there's been some questions as to whether our strategic targeting of how we're doing litter removal is working. So I'll wait till other folks have had a turn in the queue, but then I'll want to ask the department some questions about ways to strengthen our litter removal and illegal dumping enforcement tactics. Thank you.
Mr. Cole?
Thank you, Madam President.
The very large public investment that went into building those parks. So that's one thing. The second thing is that you heard early in the meeting several small business owners on International Boulevard spoke about their fear of the impacts of the BRT, the bus rapid transit, and what it's going to do to their business based on loss of parking spaces and no loading zones and what have you that they are worried about. So the city staff has come forth with quite an extensive plan and actually quite a lot of money. I think like over $6 million. Oops, I went over my 4 minutes. I'm going to have to come back to myself here. Anyway, there's no money for relocation or for any kind of compensation for businesses that go out of business as a result of that. So I'll come back to that later, and I will now call on the mayor.
Thank you. I just wanted to update for everybody. Looks like we got the code to go out of committee and we'll go to the full floor next week. So that was the last committee, and we think we're going to win next week. So thank you, everyone. If the kill switch goes into these cell phones, it should make everybody safer. They already have shown some data that the apples which voluntarily put it in are now being stolen at a lower rate than my Samsung. So I just want to make a couple general comments. First of all, I want to thank everybody who's been coming out to the hearing. Based on the hearing, we worked really hard with the staff and with council members to try to make the changes and that reflected some of the tweaking. And so I'd like to talk, generally, I think as Mr. Collins said, if we remember way back in January when we made projections, our revenues are much higher than we had projected last year. That enables us to add back things, and that's what we're doing. We're still adding back. I want to remind the people at home that we laid off about 1,000 workers since the recession began, and we've now restored maybe about 400 positions. Probably a couple hundred of the redevelopment ones will never have the funding to get back quickly. As the city grows and the economy grows, maybe we'll get some of those back. I really feel that because people forget that the blight and the littering, a lot of that was paid for from redevelopment. So that there's going to have to be probably some shift in priorities if we're going to particularly start doing the illegal dumping and the littering onto the general fund. And so I think that's a good thing for the 2-year budget to look at what our priorities are as the economy grows and we start adding people back. One of the easiest things for me to do, and I won't tell my library stories, as the daughter of a legal immigrant, not illegal, but an uneducated immigrant mom, I was lucky enough to grow up during summers in my hometown within a block of the public library, and I spent most of my time there. So deep in my heart. And it's amazing how the library's changed. So, some of you know, I was in Washington with the Maker Fair at the White House, and Oakland is going to try to turn our 2 library into a Maker workshop. And we're really hopeful that we'll get some federal grants to do that and to keep the libraries on the cutting edge. A decade ago when I became a council member, we wouldn't think that we'd be feeding kids out of the library, and it's such a critical part of keeping kids healthy. And then sneakily bringing them in for the summer reading program at the same time. But we've changed the way we operate. We've changed the role we play in the community. It still is a major place for the internet. And we will be continuing to grow the library. So not only do we have to maintain what was, but we have to keep up with the times of what the library will be in the next century. So $500,000 is not enough, and hopefully the economy will grow, and I will put a larger part of our growing economy into the library for the next 2-year budget. I wanted to make a note because Mr. Call asked us to try to restore the money for the homeless and food program, and when we talked to staff, they felt that there'll be enough overage that we didn't have to make not overage, but what will be left over at the end of the year, that we can put that into the program. Should that not be the case when we close the books in October, we will come back for a small general fund modification, but we'll make sure that it does get funded. The issue with the merchants, first of all, and then I want to make a comment on the land sales. The land sales, most of the land that we own now is part of the redevelopment, and we will have to sell that and share the proceeds with other agencies. It will be one-time money. There are some pieces of land that we bought specifically for affordable housing, so I'm hoping that will continue to go for that purpose. And when you leave that all alone, and you take all of those, there's a very few unused lots, and I have forgotten about this one, where the city owns them, and we don't have to disperse the revenues, and we can use them for what we want, or we can sell them, but it's not a lot. I think Donna and I estimated that it's like a couple $1 million worth of land. We'd be happy to bring back that report and look at that as we look at all, now that the state has approved our ROPS, we'll bring back a plan for all of the land back to the city council. In terms of the merchants, quickly, there will be some money to work with the merchants on parking in response to Councilwoman Kaplan's issue. We've taken $1 million, when we approved this budget, $1 million out of the CDBG for helping the merchants, but there's not a lot of other sources after that. Both she and I, probably through being on the two transportation agencies, will probably try to get more money from MTC and the county transportation committee. But it's going to be very different from merchant to merchant. I think Mr. Guy has taken the most time to go with this block by block. And you'll get reports by the end of July on the parking issue, and we think we actually have that pretty under control, and there'll be less disbursement than we think. But there may be opportunities maybe to build some parking lots, and we could go to MCC or maybe the county to get funding for parking lots in neighborhoods where there is some impact, but it's less than originally looked at. The issue of whether how long-term affects merchants is going to be much more difficult, and it's going to be merchant by merchant. So some groups have 300, our staff has it more down to 30, and so we'll look at that. But finding that money will be the most difficult. Lastly, I just want to talk about the reserve. So how we funded the library is that originally we had proposed, we all know that the city has about 4 or 5 reserves right now. So the one that we usually talk about is the general purpose reserve, the 7.5% required by our rules, the one that Mr. Gardner had to dip in after the earthquake too. These are reserves we very rarely use.